Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Zahidah binti Sarkawi. My group members are Nurul Natasha, Khairul Najmiyah, Ainul Hayati, and Shasha Diana. Our topic is assessing students' learning according to their learning styles. First of all, have you ever heard of the term learning style? The term learning styles refer to the concept that each individuals differ in terms of what mode of instruction and study that is most effective for them. We found that it is very important for teachers to vary their assessment and teaching styles to help students with different learning styles. There are 4 main types of learning styles discovered by Fleming. The 4 types are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and read and write. Other than that, the examples of teaching styles are hybrid, facilitate, lecture and demonstrate, and other instructional method that can be used by the teachers. And last but not least, the 2 forms of assessment that will be discussed in these topics are formative assessment and summative assessment. So, what is formative assessment? Formative assessment is a form of assessment that monitors students' learning throughout the learning process. The examples of formative assessments are quizzes, presentations, assignments, class activity, group discussion, and other class activity that measure students' performance throughout the learning process. So moving on to the relevance of formative assessment to students' learning styles. The variety of assessment that can be conducted through formative assessment will help students with different learning styles, as each learning styles prefer different types of assessment. For example, the visual type of learning styles prefer mind map activities, video presentation, and other creative projects. For the auditory learning style, the students prefer group discussions, idea presentations, and information sharing. Next, for the read and write type, the students prefer reading and writing assessments, tests, and also quizzes. And last but not least, for the kinesthetic types of learning style, they prefer hands-on activity and experiment tests. What are the benefits of formative assessment? Formative assessment helps students detect their weakness through the ongoing assessment. Next, formative assessment help students improve themselves and motivate the students to do better through the positive feedback provided by the teachers. And lastly, formative assessment will help students improve their soft skills through the variety of assessments. Lastly, my suggestions for teachers to help students with different learning assessment through formative assessments is teachers should vary their assessment according to the students' preferred learning styles and preferred assessments. Different assessment will help different students, so teachers should use various of learning styles in classroom activity and in the formative assessment.
It is important for teachers to know if the required learning has taken place among the students, because they need to revise the course content so that the whole learning process can be made more meaningful for students with different learning styles. Summative assessment is an assessment of learning which ultimately reveals what students have learned by the end of the course by comparing them against a universal standard or school benchmark. How does it differ to formative assessment? Is that formative assessment is an assessment for learning, which means they can be conducted throughout the whole course so that the understanding of the students can be made more significant. However, for summative assessment, it can only be conducted by the end of the course to measure the students' performance using graded course activities For example, using tests and quizzes or standardized examinations like PMR and SPM. Fundamentally, summative assessments caters more to students who are good in memorizing information. By using summative assessment, teachers get to identify which information is retained and mastered by recognizing any common gaps in students' learning. Summative assessment is also very helpful in providing motivation for students to excel in this assessment because it is highly likely that the grades that they obtain from this will hugely impact their future. However, a few disadvantages to this is that it causes undue anxiety for students, which might also cause a cycle in affecting their grades. Last but not least, it is not the most accurate form of reflection of learning as ultimately it only tests students' ability in memorizing information. The existence of different learning styles has made it hard for summative assessment to be the only way to assess students' learning. However, if abundance of resources and time are given for teachers to explore their pedagogy abilities and approaches, then eventually students with different learning styles get to benefit from this type of assessment. In a nutshell, summative and formative assessment should be conducted together in assessing students' learning because just evaluating students' performance by the end of the course is not enough. These two assessments should be conducted together to align with a learning outcome that caters to students with different learning styles.
Let's take a look on another important aspect that is related to our topic, which is the rubric. So, what is rubric? According to the Malaysian education curriculum, teachers are expected to be able to inculcate different methods of teaching and learning in the classroom. This includes assessment where it should vary according to the students' different learning styles. When we talk about assessment, there must be some kind of a grading tools to help teachers to evaluate their students' level of understanding or to evaluate their students' achievement. Rubric is one of the grading tools apart from the graded category rating scale. Although the GCRS graded category rating scale is fast and convenient for teachers, but a detailed and task-specified scope is focused in rubrics. So, what are the roles of rubrics in assessing students' learning style? As we know, rubrics are not only helpful in helping teachers to assess their students' achievement, but it is also helpful in helping teachers to identify their students' learning style. This is because analytic rubric actually helps in providing students' profile of their own strengths and weaknesses, making it easier for teachers to distinguish each of their students according to the varied learning style. Next, through rubric, students are aware of the expectations or objectives that they have to achieve, which means that all of these students are moving towards the same goal. They have the same goal, but they might have different preferred ways in order to achieve that goals. And last but not least, in contrast with the GCRS, rubrics actually have more potential in promoting and enhancing students' learning other than improved instruction for teachers. This is because rubrics are easier to understand, making the target instruction more clearer to students. This results in students being more motivated in order to reach the standards and achieve the target. What are the common issues that revolve around this type of grading tool? Firstly, most educators still prefer the GCRS graded category rating scale because in order for you to construct a reliable rubric, it requires extra time and extra energy. And apart from that, GCRS is considered to be less complicated than rubric. From my perspective of view, I think it would be better for teachers to be able to inculcate both the use of GCRS and the use of rubrics in the classroom. My suggestion is that for formative assessment, maybe teachers can use more rubrics in order to assess the students, and then for summative assessment, teachers can apply the use of GCRS.
Now, let's have a look at how do teachers assess their students that have variety learning style in one time. First, they can use group work and collaborations in teaching. teachers can allocate the students in small groups that consist various types of learners. For example, the students can discuss in their small group and exchange their opinion that can bring benefits for them in verbalizing their ideas. On the other hand, teachers can also conduct the class by providing the students with different types of activities throughout the lesson. This will help teachers to be fair by providing various types of activities to cater every student according their learning style. In particular, teachers can hand out one worksheet that are focusing on each learning style at a time. As a consequence, it will help teachers to inculcate the students with the four main skills that are being focused in the National DSKP, which are writing, speaking, reading, and listening skills. Moving on, another ways to assess students with variety learning style is by implementing gamification in education. It has been proven that gamification in education is the optimum way to engage with students despite their variety learning style. Gamification can also help to increase students' attention spans. Hence, teachers can provide as many exercises for the students despite their learning style background as long as it is a game-based activities such as quizzes and Kahoot. According to an article, gamified materials had a positive impact on learning outcomes. Hence, there is nothing teachers need to be worried of if games is implemented in classroom. In fact, it can help to lessen teachers' burden. Last but not least, teachers can also use reward system in assessing students with various learning style. They can implement a friendly competition among students in the classroom. But teachers need to be careful with the competition as we do not want the students to compete for the sake of winning. Our aim is for the students to gain knowledge by using the competing method. It can also help students to be more motivated and focused in classroom. The reward system will indirectly help students to improve their grades as they are competing healthily with their classmates. For example, students will be rewarded with badges when they are volunteering to answer in class.
Let us move on to the importance of why teachers should acknowledge students' individual learning styles. As we have learned earlier, some students learn best when they hear information, others when they get to touch and explore it. Some respond to a bright and busily decorated classroom, while others may find it distracting. It will affect the choice of educational models. Research results show that there is a correlation between learning and teaching styles. Teachers' preferences in relation to certain strategies influence the choice of educational models. Teacher strategies should be more or less functional to pupils' learning characteristics. Therefore, it is important for teachers to know their students' learning styles for them to make their teaching more compatible with their students. Using a learning styles-based teaching is useful to differentiate instruction. The identification of students' learning approaches can help teachers to implement different strategies for the benefit of different learners. Is to produce better students with higher order thinking skills. Embracing the fact that all children learn differently and applying this knowledge may produce better students with higher order thinking skills. And last but not least, it is important for teachers to understand their students' learning styles to better facilitate learning process according to the students' ability. Knowing the students' preferred learning style can be of value to teachers, especially when designing meaningful lesson plans. Moving on to the next topic, which is ways to cater to different students' learning styles during online learning. As we are in the midst of the pandemic COVID-19, all educational institutions have resumed operations in the form of online classes and assessments. Here are a few tools for educators to use to cater to students' different types of learning. First of all, mind mapping. A mind map is a type of diagram that is used to represent ideas and relationships between those ideas. The diagramming approach is very appealing to students who tend to be visual learners. Here are a few tools, which is Wise Mapping, Canva, and MindMeister. The second tool would be screencasting. Screencasting is the process of recording your computer screen while you complete a task, often with audio narration or on-screen text-based narration as a short video. In online education, screencasting can be an excellent tool for the visual learner as well as the auditory learner if narration is provided. Here are the tools for screencasting, which is TechSmith Nugget, TechSmith Camtasia, and also Adobe Captivate. Moving on, the third one is speaking characters. This is a simple way to add sound to the classroom that will help the auditory learner in understanding short instructions for assignments, announcements, and discussions. This Voki app allows you to choose character and its appearance, record your own voice, or you can even choose the character's voice. And the fourth one is zooming presentation. As kinesthetic learners respond best when presented with situations where they can move, do, or experience something, zooming presentations can be the best option for them. Prezi offers an opposite to the traditional presentation mode, where usually the points are in order like PowerPoint or Keynote. Prezi presentations can sometimes veer off of the path, allowing the instructor to easily jump out of order or delve into different areas depending upon the classroom discussion. Prezi presentations can give students the sense that they are experiencing different kind of experience during online class. And the final one is online quiz platforms. Various online quiz platforms offer a variety of features that is appealable to students with different learning styles. Illustrations can be used to portray questions for visual learners or even a read aloud feature for audio learners. Here are a few platforms that teachers can use to do online quiz, which is Quizzes, Kahoot, Quizlet, and Socrative. To conclude, it is very important for teachers to acknowledge and incorporate different teaching styles to suit students' varied learning styles, as past research has shown that the implementation of addressing multiple intelligences, tiered learning, chunking, and cooperative learning groups appear to positively impact learning and interest in learning. It is now no doubt that teachers should acknowledge students' different preferences in learning styles. Teachers should also be active and creative to cater to students, especially in this evolving world where it seems like everything is growing in a fast pace. That is all from our group. Thank you.